Is it asking? Oh, yeah, now I see the recording thing. Cool.
We're on.
We're on there.
All right, guys, welcome to the next segment of the Next Evolution Athletics Q&A Ask a Coach. So, it's Barrett Donovan as always, and now I've got John Rogers as a guest today. So, hey, John, what's up, buddy?
Hello, how we doing, Barrett?
Another day in the quarantine dream, bud.
Another day, another day.
Yeah. Right? So, John, why don't you give us a brief intro on who you are, what you do, where you work, stuff like that.
My name is John Rogers. I am the gym owner, I guess on the ownership team. I can't take all the credit for Trec Fit Lab in Calgary. We are I guess I can still say we're a CrossFit gym for 2 more days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're a CrossFit gym in Calgary, and I would say we specialize in CrossFit, but we're kind of much more. We have our obstacle course, the OCR Labs, and then we have Barrett, obviously, Next Evolution Athletics, and with all those, we kind of have like all the different facets of fitness. We have like our CrossFit, our powerlifting, our weightlifting, done by one of our coaches is a international ranked weightlifter. And then we also have our OCR with Chad and OCR Labs. And then we have like the strongman stuff they run on the weekends with Barrett. I'm at the helm there. And then we also have kind of our personal training, and then we have boot camp. So kind of have like really like the one-stop shop for everything here.
Yeah, the mishmash.
Yeah. As far as
Yeah.
my own personal experience, I guess you could say I'm a retired competitive CrossFitter. I still kind of compete, but I guess the retired part means that I can be bad at it and justify why I'm bad.
It makes sense.
So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah. John and I have worked together for.
I think we're coming up on probably 13 years now.
Yeah, I gotta say we gotta be around 13 at this point.
Yeah, because it would have been my 10-year anniversary when we left our previous employer, and then Trek has been open for 3 years. So yeah, so I guess probably right around the 13-year mark.
Yeah, so I was just over 10 when we left too. Yeah,
Yeah.
John and I left together along with OCR Labs Chad.
Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of walked out the door the same day and walked into here and started things up.
The fatal threesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, John, I'm gonna ask you a few questions about training and stuff like that, and just give me some what you think.
Sure.
So, I'd like to know what you consider your training philosophy is. I love asking this question to different coaches. It's always fun.
Do you mean now or in general?
Let's go with in general, and then maybe touch on now in the next part.
So I would say in general, I kind of I've really pulled a lot of my training philosophy from the people that I have worked with in the past. Like I'm very much of I used to be a CrossFit zealot where it was just like, well, CrossFit says this, like I got to do it this way. And progressively, as I've worked with more people that have shown me experience in different fields and in different areas, I've actually one of our guy that you used to work with kind of like made this joke. He's like, you kind of do like a John Fit type of thing, where it's really just like, it's taking a lot of the principles of CrossFit that I like the functional movements, high intensity, constantly varied piece. But I also try and mash that with a lot of like the scheduled periodization that we do, and like actually having like a plan, which is always good.
No.
Mixing that in with lots of, I guess you can call it like prehab work that I've learned through working with Barrett, and then also just like experience of beating the shit out of myself through my own training, kind of understanding like, yeah, overloading certain movement patterns or just like different positions really starts to beat up the body. And so understanding that every athlete that I work with, whether that be an actual athlete or whether that just be like a gen pop person, they all have kind of like I call them gremlins, where like
yeah, that's a good one.
have rules. And so every person that you work with has their own specific rule. And so it's like, if this person does deadlifts more than once a month, their back is going to get sore. They're going to get pissed off. Or if their margin of error for a deadlift, if they're like 1 degree off of a back flexion, then they're fucked for a month, right? Stuff like that. So just kind of understanding that like you can take the constantly varied functional movement, high intensity piece and apply that to almost everybody, not everybody, almost everybody. And as long as you understand their rules, then you can really make them go through that and you can still get some really good results, make them have a good time without, as long as you follow those rules. That's like the really the number one piece is understanding everyone's gremlins.
Yeah, it's funny how what works for so many people can murder someone else.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Like just kill them instantly.
Yeah. And it's been interesting because like I do all the programming for our gym and quite a while ago, I think this was like really early stage kind of CrossFit at one of my, I think it was an L1 or level 2, probably level 2. They used this phrase, it was program for the best and scale for the rest. And then I kind of was like that sounds like so cool when you first learn it and you're like, oh, that's so badass. So it's just like you have some crazy level athlete and you're just like, well, we'll just back it off a little bit for this person. And then like kind of after thinking about that a bit more, I'm just like, you can't fucking do that. That's stupid.
It's almost reversed, really.
Yeah, exactly. So like kind of think like program for the general population and then scale things up for the people because they can handle anything. You just make it harder in some way and then they'll just have to adapt to that change instead of giving someone a ludicrous amount of volume and backing it off. It's kind of works the other way. So yeah.
It's funny how that works. Like you have to look at the bulk of your clientele. Like you have a lot of athletes at Trek, but the bulk of the clientele is Gen Pop that just wants to eat pizza on the weekend, not worry about it.
Yeah, you're kind of your, I guess I call them the weekend warriors, but it's kind of, I guess it's backwards. It's more their
Weekday
weekend
warriors.
deviants, and then during the week they're better.
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely interesting. Because I was the same way when we started, like strength training, this way, and I think it really closes off your ability to see different ways to get the same result.
Yeah.
It might work better for someone else, and it's really kind of interesting. I find like looking back when I was a newer coach, you were dogmatic in your approach at a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Then as you get more experience and train and learn more things from different people and read more books and certifications, stuff like that, you realize that, one way might work for one person, but there's literally 1,000 other ways that'll work for 10,000 other people.
Yeah.
So if you just understand that there's a flex to it, it makes your training way better, I think. You get way better results. You're less beat up, no question.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's way more fun.
Yeah. Well, like the phrase that I've used like over and over again, like, and I explain this to all my clients in consults that I do with them is like, you can't build a house with a hammer, right? Like if you only have one tool in your toolbox, it's only going to get you so far. So like
everything's a nail if the only thing you have is a hammer.
yeah, so like if you slowly progressively as you're in like the life of a trainer or a strength coach is like progressively adding tools to your toolbox, then like you can start to work on way more projects, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's when we left our previous employer, it was kind of like getting to that point where I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting so sick and tired of just seeing the same people over and over again. Because seemed like it was always the exact same person, maybe like a few little issues here and there, like it's not issues, but a few like few rules, gremlins. But it was more or less the same shit over and over and over again. But then like as soon as we left and we came to a different spot, I started to get like this really broad spectrum of people that I would work with, and then everybody kind of turned into like their own little troubleshooting project where you kind of like have to kind of go through the ABCs of like, okay, well, we tried this and this isn't working quite how I expected it to. And so, well, let's try a bit of a different approach. Maybe this way that this other person talked about this one day that we were shooting the shit about, I don't know, fitness in general. And you try this other thing and you're like, oh, wow, that's really effective. Okay, well, maybe my original view wasn't the best way. So I'm going to try this. And then makes you want to dive into that other kind of, avenue a bit more. So it's kind of the fun part of coaching.
Yeah. Now, when you left, John, because I know that I experienced this, did you find your training skills went like this?
Yeah, well, they kind of go from that, like, I'm sick and tired of doing the same thing over and over again to like, wow, I really feel like I have the freedom to try and reach out to more people and not get held back is not the right word, but just feel like there's a lot less stuff to have to navigate. It was just kind of like, I want to do this, do it, cool.
I say boxed in.
Yeah,
That's the term I used. All
No
right.
less boxing.
Now let's go to the next one here. What are you doing to adapt to like your own personal training and your clients' training right now with the whole pandemic lockdown, can't go to a gym kind of thing?
I've had this well, so as far as like what I'm doing differently, um
Everyone's doing push-ups and burpees. No.
oh god, like the part of it that is quite a bit different is I have always tried to view my workouts like, as far as like my personal training and like personalized programming view. I've always tried to keep a fair amount of a even ratio of push pull
Yeah.
and and that kind of thing.
Or even more pull than push.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and just to try and keep everything pretty level, it's like structurally, but like it's but now that a lot of the pulling options have been taken away, like unless you have a pull-up bar or a pull down apparatus of some kind, it has almost completely eliminated a vertical pull.
Yeah.
Almost. I'm not saying completely, but like it's more or less
It's much
taking
more difficult to perform it.
to get pretty damn creative, right? So now your options of how you can kind of balance out that vertical push, vertical pull, horizontal push, horizontal pull, that really has gone away from the actual formal pulling movement, and then a lot of like front rack holds and more like static and yeah, like more positioning exercises instead of like the formal traditional pull down, pull up, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like as far as the keeping the ratio of push and pull even or like more towards the pull, that's the number one thing I think that's changed. But the other piece that's I've found like from like a responsible coach programming perspective is unless someone has a barbell and weights, like barbell and plates, or even like a large selection of dumbbells, you really can't load anybody up to keep their volume down. You have to load their and get their intensity up via volume.
Yeah.
And the joints, like they just start to take an absolute beating. Like if you take someone who can crush out like 75 unbroken push-ups before they start to get tough, then you got to give that guy a lot of freaking push-ups before he's going to start to work in kind of that like 7, 8, 9, 10 RPE scale, right?
Or a lot of variance in different push-ups that they've never done.
Exactly. Like, yeah, and then throwing in that kind of variety piece is definitely where we're having to find a lot of those that option is kind of take them away from stability and kind of take or start to add like those different movement patterns that maybe just kind of take the same movements but just make them a little bit trickier and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. How are you finding your training in this now?
Well, this is kind of jumping ahead to the next question, but we are doing daily workouts at Trek here, and we're streaming them on our Facebook Live. And the original plan was the other guy that one of the other owners that I'm kind of working on all this with, him and I were going to split the workouts 60-40, 50-50, but literally the second day doing these videos, he tore his meniscus doing a pistol squat. So he is hobbling around all over the place and he's not able to do any kind of lower body movement. And a lot of the stuff, I'm not even going to say a lot, all the stuff that we do in CrossFit is very full body focused.
No.
So there's virtually nothing that he is able to do. So doing 6 conditioning workouts a week, and it is slowly beating the shit out of my body.
Yeah, it's different when you're creeping that 36, 37, 38 range, eh?
I've been pretty well indoctrinated with like the the 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 day on, 1 day off, or like some kind of a variation of that. And man, having like 6 days in a row with one rest day just doesn't seem to do it the way that I like it to. And like, I'm never like crazy sore the next day, but it's just like going back to what I was talking about, the accumulation of volume throughout the week.
Yeah.
It definitely starts to chew away. Like I was doing something that was pretty benign on, I think it was Saturday last week, and I pulled my adductor. So now I've been trying to program around an iffy adductor, and I've also been trying to do the workouts the best I could. So you'll just often see me in the videos being like, "Oh, I'm fine. No, it's fine."
Everything's great. Okay, feel great.
Yeah, as far as my own training has been going, I have all this time that I should be able to be working on my own stuff and doing my own strength training. But by the time I get in, I do all of my PT, I do all of the online stuff. Then I'm just kind of like, I don't really feel like doing another workout today, even if it's totally different and totally different focus. Just can't do it.
It's funny, eh? Like it's almost like you only got so much room in the bucket, and the bucket is like, I'm full.
As a fucking leak.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting right now. I found the same thing when I first did the pivot, because that's what pretty much all of us did. We had no choice.
Yeah.
I spent a month doing like body weight and like almost no implement, like a backpack, maybe a band, because that's the bulk of what my clientele had at the time, because they just didn't have their gear in yet because they're ordering and everything is back ordered. So I was in the same boat. It's like I was doing about a workout or two workouts a day with just a backpack or with like one band, and you're like, after a month of, you're like, I can't keep this volume up, I'll die.
Yeah.
I mean, I can, but I also have to still pivot my business and do a bunch of other stuff on the back end. I've got like a 3-month-old that I'm trying to raise with my wife, and like there's just a lot of stuff, and it's like, man, this is definitely interesting. Like I could do a second workout today, but
Yeah, I don't really want to. I kind of want to save some energy
I've been
here.
in my basement for 8 hours now. I don't think this is healthy.
A freaking under the bridge troll or something like that.
Yeah, you can call me Grindelwald when this is all done.
The third.
All right,
Yeah.
and here's an interesting one that I've been asking a lot of different coaches, because I've done a few of these videos now, and I'm asking everyone the same question. What changes do you think are going to take place post coronavirus, and what changes are Trek actually going to do, in your
Um,
opinion,
well, as far as changes,
for like the fitness industry in our world?
I think that immediately after, like as soon as gyms open up, the immediate thing that what we're going to see is anybody that bought a lot of equipment to try and prepare themselves for the long quarantine. I think that we will, like, so let's say that we get back into it in July.
Yeah,
We will not see those people that have home gyms come back to the actual gym or start to join gyms again.
yeah,
My guess is until November, December. And that's for two reasons. Number one, they're like, I got some great momentum. There's no reason for me to go away and work out with other people when I have everything I need. It's super convenient, blah, blah, blah. And they'll keep that up. And then, like, they got the sun coming in their garage or their basement or whatever it is. They're all happy. And then once it starts to get a little bit cold, well, two things happen. One, working out alone sucks. It really sucks. And eventually you just start to lose that intrinsic motivation to do it on your own.
well,
And
especially if you have no deadline.
exactly, yeah. So you'll go back to gyms just for human interaction. And then also, especially in like a CrossFit setting, to have a lot more of a competitive atmosphere to be able to go. So like, if you're always working out on your own, you get really good at working about 85%, because like even if you're like uncomfortable, it's like uncomfortable for working out alone. If you start to work out with people around you, uncomfortable is a completely different level, especially if there's someone that's pushing you or you're trying to catch up with, right? So
Yeah,
there's that aspect of things. And then there's the aspect of a cold garage.
kind of sucks.
if you like a few of my friends, they've ran a business out of their garage for a while, and like the first like 4 or 5 months they ran it, they kind of started it in like March, May, and it was a nice year, and so like it was kind of nice. They would come in, be a little cool in the garage, but no big deal. And then it was like September, October hit, and it was like cold, cold, cold. And so they'd bring in their barbells inside, like right before they'd work out. They'd go into the garage and like put all the space heaters on to try and warm everything up. And then by the time they got back in and turned off the space heaters so they could hear each other's talk, it would be like 15 minutes and it was right back to being cold again. So there's that aspect of people just like not wanting to work out in a cold garage. Right. So those are kind of, I think, like the main two that are going to be a little bit like longer to see people return back to the gym. And then there's definitely going to be people that are just like, thank fucking Christ, this is all over. I am so happy to be back working out with people that I know and enjoy to work out with. Right.
Yeah.
So that's going to be kind of like the two different categories as far as like from a CrossFit gym side of things. All right. And then as far as like personal training goes, it's going to be such a different landscape. Like, I think that even myself, like I was kind of on the side of where I'm just like, I really had no desire of doing like online personal training, like through a Zoom. But there's like, I would say about 4 or 5 of the people that I do personal training with have like a full setup, and really nothing has changed from the service I was giving them before. The only main difference is they don't have music cranked up while they're working out.
Yeah.
Right. And there's not people beside them at the same time. So like from that side of things, I think that even myself, there'll be a lot of people that I try and reach out to try and get to do online personal training to kind of extend my day a little bit. So maybe I train for like personal train here from 5:30 in the morning until about noon, and then maybe go home and train maybe 2 or 3 hours kind of throughout the midday. And then the nice part about that is you can do it anywhere in the world. So if you go on vacation, you just got to put 3 to 4 hours aside, and then you can kind of do it on the go. Right. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of, I think, the main difference as far as like the personal training and gym atmosphere. But I also think that there's going to be a lot less gyms around after this, which is really unfortunate. Like, I think that some are going to be able to take advantage of all the government subsidies, or be able to really kind of lean on their membership that are super loyal, and they keep on paying their dues throughout this entire thing without having to dip into any kind of loans or anything like that. Right. So, but there's definitely going to be people that maybe did not give a very good service when this is all closed, and then all of a sudden they have to close down because no one wanted to pay a membership for getting nothing back.
Yeah. I think it's going to be I've said this to a few people before. Like, I think not just gyms, but companies that treat people like crap during this time and take advantage of people like crap and during this time. I think that when this comes back around, I think it's going to be a really, really big karma hit to them, where you're going to see the government hammer them, or their membership hammer them, or like their customers just say, I'm not going to shop there. They took advantage of me. I couldn't
Yeah.
stop my payments, or I couldn't, contact anyone I needed to get a hold of. And I think that's really going to come back on the back end and really bite them in the ass.
Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, that's one thing about our industry, right? Especially lately, is that uh, freedom, like the choice and like the diverse kind of landscape of what's been available around Calgary. Like, I say Calgary, but I'm sure this is the same in any city. Smaller, obviously, changed a little bit. But there's such a diverse or availability for different types of fitness that you can
Yeah.
do and try. And before, like, if this were this same thing were to happen like 10, 15 years ago, it would be like, oh crap, they're still taking my memberships. I'm really pissed off with them. And then like when this is all over, well, I guess I'll go back to them because there's no other options available. But now there's just so many options available. Like, whether they are competing gyms or completely different services, there's still more options available. So I think that anybody that pissed off their membership while this is all going on, they're not going to have that kind of reliable bounce back of like their memberships coming back to them. They're going to go somewhere else to find a service that they're a bit more happy with, or a new community or something like that, right?
Yeah. I think it's going to get, it's going to get pretty interesting, to be honest. Like, because you don't know what you don't know in this whole situation. Like, you don't know how many gyms are going to survive. You don't know how many gyms are going to be like thriving. You know how gyms are like gyms are going to be opening up. Like, and you have to look at the membership base. Maybe a lot of members say, I don't want to go back to a gym because, like you said, I have a fully equipped house. I can do whatever the heck I need to in my own house and with no problem. So I think you'll see a whole diversification of the field as well as the clientele and their options. It's going to
Yeah.
be really interesting, especially in Calgary, because I think for the last probably 5 to 7 years for sure, I think the Calgary market has been like oversaturated with different types of fitness facilities, and it's just kind of a yes, I do believe that there's enough for everybody, but I think there's just so many options all the time that allows people like to just jump,
Yeah.
and they don't have that ability to create that loyalty. Now, Trek is actually one of the weird ones where they have a really loyal client base, which is why I love that place. But I think a lot of gyms with that really loyal client base that really love the whole environment, I think it's going to be a big shock to them when the members go, I want to try a different place.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like the other piece that is obviously going to fit into it is like, this isn't going to be like turning the light switch back on, right? Like it's going to be like a really slow ramping back up to the way things are normal. And like my guesstimation is for a lot of people, like that ramping back up piece is going to probably take about 6 to 12 months for it to happen, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
so there's a very good chance that a lot of people are not going to, like, even though fitness and your health should be pretty high in the priority list, it's going to fall pretty low on the priority list for a lot of people. And so there's going to be, like, let's say 100% of the population got their gym memberships taken away or got cut because they didn't have access to gyms anymore. I'd be willing to bet that when things reopen, only 50% are going to go back to actually paying a membership right away. And that's not including the people that have their own gyms in their house. I think it's probably going to take 3 to 6 months for gyms to get back to their full capacity and like the exact same membership base they had before. I think it'll take a little bit of time to kind of get things to ramp back up, which is kind of a scary thought for a lot of gyms if they're just kind of like riding that bubble.
Yeah.
Like once the kind of the government funding stops, then it's going to put the people in a pretty interesting pickle.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be a new environment. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But I am optimistic.
Hey, what else can you be?
Interesting changes are going to come, and we'll just have to see how everyone takes the changes as they come.
Well, we've talked a lot over the years. I think we've talked about it before. It's like the most adaptable animal will survive. That's just
Yeah.
evolution. So it's literally the next evolution in the fitness industry.
Mm-hmm.
So what's it going to look like after like this whole coronavirus COVID pandemic, and who adapts? So I think that you're going to see a lot of, I think there's almost going to be a break point of trainers. So I think any trainers that were like, 3 to 5 years in, like maybe 5 years or less, or 3 years or less in the field, and they were just kind of on the edge of like, oh, am I going to go back to training or do something else? Like, kind of those, those low mid-level trainers where they haven't really gotten their feet and really dedicated enough of their life to doing it. I
Yeah.
think you're going to see a lot of those people leave, and that's usually the base of the bulk of them.
Yeah.
So, and I think you'll see the trainers that are like in that 3 to 5 year range, that maybe the 5 to 6 year range, or kind of like, well, I've been doing it for 5 or 6 years. I think it's time for a change. I think you'll see a lot of those people kind of either, for lack of a better term, shit or get off the pot. Like, I'm going to go full on, dive into this field and not look back, or go someplace else. And they'll have trainers that, like you and I and Chad, have been doing this for literally over a decade. We're barely qualified to do anything else outside of being the Barrett and John contracting company when we have to build something in the gym.
Assistant manager.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think you're going to see like coaches that have constantly tried to push and push and push and grow and grow and grow. I think it'll be harder at the start, but long term, I think there'll be more on the back end for it.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I mean, only time will tell, but it's just how it is. Like, you just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know.
And on that note, buddy, it was really good talking to you. We'll probably have to do it again because I'm sure there's a billion other things we could talk about, because Lord knows we have. So, yeah, that's about it. I'll keep in touch. We'll have to talk probably I don't know, a dozen more times before we do this again for sure. But yeah, I'll end the recording and stick around for a second, and I'll talk to you after that. Other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed this one. We have more coming your way. Stay tuned.